Hello. So, um, the next book that I read is also on the good book list. It goes above Demon in a Jazz Bar, but that's not hard because that book is so short. I'd be shocked if there was anything underneath it. At least that's what I thought. That's what I was going to say if I hadn't read all of the books already, because there is a book underneath it. And that book, we'll get there. The next book is called Black God's Drums, and it is a 2018 book by P. I'm so sorry for if I mispronounce your name. De Dejli Clark. I'm so sorry. Um, Google has a few genres listed: steampunk, science fiction, alternate history, fantasy fiction, historical fantasy. And the reason I picked up this book is because it's got melanin in it, so I decided to give it a chance. Um, According to Google, it has 79 pages. Amazon says that it has 112 pages. If you notice, I tend to read books in page order if I can help it. Sometimes page numbers are wrong. Sometimes Amazon's page numbers on the website does not match the page numbers that Kindle has. But whatever. Sometimes they don't even have page numbers. Sometimes they do that stupid location bullshit. Anyway, so Creeper is a young girl. She's living in the broken U.S. The Civil War is in an armistice that could pop off at any time, and the South still has slavery, except New Orleans. It's a neutral free city, and people know that if the Civil War pops off again, New Orleans might end up being the center of it because there are Union and Confederate soldiers in New Orleans. And Creeper hears the goddess Oya in her head, and she's a warrior queen. She's the African goddess of thunder, lightning, tornado, winds, rainstorms, and hurricanes. She's also the guardian of the realm between life and death. Um, if you'd like to know more about her, I'm gonna leave like a link in the description. She's one of the African goddesses. I cannot seem to find which culture she belonged to, but the fact that we know anything about African goddess and gods and goddesses is amazing. That any of that was preserved for the internet to hear about it. Anyway, Creeper hears some Confederates talking about something called the Black God's Drums. Roll credits, and um, like uh the god, the person who created the drums, like the black god, his name is Shango, and um he he is like, I think he's the person, but I'm gonna leave a link below. It seems like that might be the name of the religion, or maybe the religion is named after him. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, Black God's drums bring storms, and Haitian slaves used them to stop the French forces from coming to quell the rebellion. But the storms moved to land and killed people. And once a year, a really bad storm appears, and that's an echo of that. Creeper shares the Confederate plans with a airship captain named Anne Marie in exchange for joining her crew. Creeper has always wanted to go on one of the airships. How they have like airships now confuses me when airplanes won't be invented for another like 40 or so years. But I guess it's supposed to also be like an alternate history, like not an alternate history, a semi like futuristic history as well, because just because it's steampunk doesn't mean that like technology outpaces what we have now, because steam honestly can only get you so far. uh Anne can also hear one of Oya's siblings in her head, but unlike Creeper, she rejects it. So they go to find the guy with the drums, and Oya sends Creeper a vision of death, and they lose the drum guy. So there's a group called the Genots, or the Johnny Boys, as I'm going to call them. They have drum guy, and they disapprove of the peace, and they're also pretty bad. They want the war to start up again, and the Confederacy wants the drums so that they can start the war up again, so that they can destroy the North. Um, if a slave revolt worked in New Orleans, then why not all over the U.S. in this book? Well, here's the answer to that. There's something called Drapeto, and it's like some sort of drug, and it makes the slaves feel like dead and gross, and the white people who are giving it to them, they have to wear like face masks when they administer it, otherwise they'd be effective too. It just takes all of the life out of the slaves, but like not literally because they're still alive, and I imagine that if they stopped being exposed to the drug, they'd probably be okay. Yeah. Creeper and Anne are gonna go get Drum Guy, and as they go talk to him, as they go to get him, they talk, and Anne hears ocean in the water, and Also, I did, that's Oshun, Ocean. And she's all fidgety because Ocean isn't home in the water, and Creeper tells her to listen to it. And she doesn't want, Anne doesn't want to because she feels like she'll lose herself, but she won't because Creeper is like 10 and she hasn't. My favorite thing about this book is that Creeper doesn't have a crush on anybody. It's pretty great. And they get him, but for some reason he won't leave without some jewel that turns out to be a capital J jewel. He kept asking for some sort of jewel, and everybody assumed that it was like a diamond or something, like a gemstone, but it's a capital J jewel. It's his daughter. Slave snatching is punishable by death in New Orleans. And Creeper gets her. She almost gets killed, and I do believe that the dad gets killed, the drum guy. And the drums get unleashed anyway, but Oya doesn't let her people suffer, and Ocean helps. They are the goddesses now, like the two, like Anne and Creeper, like the goddesses inhabit their bodies for a second so that they can save everybody, but then everything is fine. Anne also decides that after schooling, Creeper can come along. Oya starts singing, and so does Ocean, and that's really cool. And the author of the book, he's one of my peoples. He's from Trinidad and Tobago. Where you at? And so I quite like the idea that the pantheons of Africa have not forgotten about us. We're still their children too. We're just more lost than everybody else. And I like that most of the people in the book, except for the soldiers, are black. And I can't speak French to any accuracy, but I knew what people were saying, so that's good. Um, this was also a book I wish was longer and we had more of the world. But one of the things that's really good about, like, especially when you're like rewriting the Civil War of all things, is like to keep it confined to America. Don't talk about what Britain's doing. Don't talk about what France is doing. Don't talk about what the rest of the world is doing. If you're gonna like revise history of a country, it's best to just focus on that country and not try to delve into international relations. Because I can tell you right now, as a person who studies Black history, if the South had won the Civil War, if it had ended in an armistice, or any other number of outcomes, it would have been, America would be a much different place. And it's hard to envision that because of everything that the end of the Civil War led to. It's really hard to envision that. Um, that being said, I do still. Never mind. I'm gonna leave it at that. Uh, I like alternate histories. I think they're fun when they're creatively done, and when magic is interjected into that, I think it's fun. The characters in this book don't piss me off like they did in the last one. Um, I do like this one more than Demon in a Jazz Bar, though. It's way higher than Demon in a Jazz Bar on the list, though. There are a lot of books between this and that one. Um, I think I only like it more, though, because as I said with Demon in a Jazz Bar, it's just Black God's Drums is just longer. So, like, there's more to develop and stuff like that. Um, Everything was explained. So, like, yeah. I'm also going to take this time to get on my little soapbox. Books, movies, and TV need more melanin, positive melanin. Not every fantasy book with Black people has to make them the slaves. Not every historical fiction has to be about slaves. We existed for a lot longer than that. All of the 20th century has Black people, and not everything needs to be identity finding. Like, yes, it is important, but so is our culture, like this book, as well as seeing Black people as royalty, the hero, having a connection with someone other than a white person. I wrote a paper on that. It's very important that all women in color and just POCs in general, like, can see that in general need it, and it can't be unearned. Like, well, if it's not out there, go write it. I'm one person, okay? I hate it when people say that if it's not out there, go write it. Some people just aren't meant to write stories. Like, some people just like reading. And I only write sci-fi, fantasy, and romance, and creepy short stories. There are other people who need to write longer, creepy short stories, who need to write, like, choose your own adventures with Black people and stuff like that. And there's so many more genres, and TVs and movies are also need more POCs. I'm gonna get off my soapbox now. The book is also female centered. All of the guys are bad except for like 3, and it's pretty great. No love interest, no overbearing dad, no mansplaining or swooping in. She is told once she should find a boy, but it was in reference to her living on the street, not being in school, and what other girls do. It's quickly dropped, and it's pretty great. This was a good book, and I recommend Black God's Drums. I kind of wish there was a second one with like another conflict or something like that, but yeah, I enjoyed it. So yeah.